You're a debtor, Isabella. Pay up soon or we'll come for you. The voice of numerous debt collectors kept ringing inside her head. Isabella pressed her back against the cafe's glass door, watching the storm devour Seoul's neon-lit streets. Her phone buzzed for the 5th time. She didn't need to look to know it was another debt collector. 3 months behind on rent. 2 maxed-out credit cards. A student loan that grew like a tumor. She silenced the call and tied her apron tighter. Table 7 needs a refill, her manager barked from behind the counter. Isabella grabbed the coffee pot, her fingers trembling slightly. Not from cold. From the kind of exhaustion that settles into bones when sleep becomes a luxury you can't afford. She wove between tables, smiling at customers who didn't see her, and refilled cups for people who never said thank you. Cafe door chimed. A man stepped inside and the air shifted. He was tall, dressed in a black coat that probably cost more than her yearly salary. Water dripped from his dark hair onto sharp cheekbones. But it was his eyes that made her pause mid-pour. Cold, distant, like he was looking at the world through bulletproof glass. He didn't glance at the menu. Didn't wait for a server. Just walked to the corner booth and sat down, pulling out his phone. Isabella approached with her notepad. What can I get you? He didn't look up. Americano. Black. No please. No eye contact. She wrote it down and turned to leave. Wait. His voice stopped her. Low, controlled, the kind of voice that expected obedience. She faced him. He was staring now, really staring, and something flickered behind those cold eyes. Recognition. Oh. Something sharper. Interest. You're not Korean, he said. Heat crept up her neck. She'd heard variations of this observation for 2 years. I'm Nigerian. Is that a problem? No. His lips curved barely. Not quite a smile. It's interesting. Thunder cracked outside. The lights flickered. Isabella's hand tightened on her notepad. I'll get your coffee. She escaped to the counter, pulse racing for reasons she couldn't name. Her manager shot her a look. That's Kang Min-jae. Don't mess it up. The name meant nothing to her. She made his Americano, hands steady despite the strange energy humming under her skin. When she returned to his table, he was on the phone, speaking rapid Korean in a tone that could cut steel. The merger's dead. I don't care what they're offering now. Tell them. She set the cup down. Some coffee sloshed over the rim onto the saucer. Min-jae's eyes snapped to hers. He ended the call without a goodbye. Sorry, Isabella said quickly, grabbing a napkin to wipe the spill. He caught her wrist. The touch was light but absolute. His fingers were warm despite the rain-soaked cold clinging to his coat. She froze, napkin suspended between them. Don't apologize, he said quietly. You didn't do anything wrong. She pulled her hand back. He let her go, but his gaze followed her like a shadow as she retreated. The rest of her shift blurred. She served tables, cleaned counters, avoided looking at the corner booth. But she felt him watching. Felt it like heat on the back of her neck. When her shift ended at midnight, the rain had only gotten worse. Isabella stood under the cafe's awning, staring at the flooded street. The subway was 6 blocks away. Her umbrella had broken last week. She took a breath and ran. Water soaked through her sneakers immediately. Her uniform clung to her skin. She made it 2 blocks before her foot caught on uneven pavement. She pitched forward. Strong hands caught her shoulders, steadying her before she hit the ground. Careful. That voice again. Isabella looked up into Min-jae's face. He stood in the rain without an umbrella, coat dark with water, but he wasn't shivering. He looked like the storm didn't dare touch him. Are you following me? The words came out sharper than she intended. I was leaving. You ran past my car. She glanced behind him. A black sedan idled at the curb, sleek and predatory under the streetlights. I'm fine, she said, stepping back. His hands fell away. Thank you. She turned to keep walking. Where are you going? Home. In this. He gestured at the storm. Lightning split the sky, and thunder answered 3 seconds later. I've walked in worse. 'Twas a lie. But pride was all she had left. Min-jae studied her for a long moment. Then he shrugged off his coat and held it out. Take it. I don't need. You're shaking. She was. Her teeth chattered and her fingers had gone numb. Take it, he repeated. Softer this time. Please. The please surprised her. She accepted the coat, and warmth enveloped her immediately. It smelled like cedar and something expensive she couldn't name. My driver will take you home, Min-jae said. I can't. It's not a request. There it was, that steel-edged control. But when she looked at his face, she saw something else beneath it. Concern. Calculation. She couldn't tell. The debt collector's voicemail echoed in her mind. The eviction notice taped to her door. The empty fridge. Fine, she said. Thank you. He opened the car door himself. The interior was leather and dim lights. Isabella slid inside, and Min-jae closed the door between them. He walked around to the driver's side window, spoke too quietly for her to hear, then stepped back. The car pulled away from the curb. Isabella twisted in her seat to look through the rear window. Min-jae stood alone in the rain, hands in his pockets, watching the car until it turned the corner and he vanished into the storm. She faced forward, fingers clutching his coat. The driver's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. Address. She gave it. Her cramped studio in Hongdae, 4th floor, no elevator. The drive took 12 minutes. When they arrived, the driver opened her door with an umbrella. Mr. Kang said to make sure you get inside safely, he explained. Isabella climbed out, still wearing the coat. I need to return this. Mr. Kang will retrieve it himself. Something cold settled in her stomach. How does he know where I live? The driver's expression didn't change. Have a good night, miss. He drove away before she could respond. Isabella stood on the wet sidewalk, staring at her building. The eviction notice glowed white against her door even from here. She climbed the stairs slowly, unlocked her door, stepped into darkness. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Hello. Did you get home safely? Min-jae's voice, impossibly calm. How did you get my number? You wrote it on my receipt. 4 order updates. She had. Standard cafe protocol. But this felt different. Invasive. I'm home, she said carefully. Thank you for the ride. Keep the coat. It looks better on you. I can't. Isabella. Her name in his mouth stopped her cold. She'd never told him her name. Her name tag only said Bella. How do you know my full name? Silence stretched between them. Rain hammered against her window. Get some rest, Min-jae said finally. You work the morning shift tomorrow. He hung up. Isabella's hand shook as she lowered the phone. She walked to her window and looked down at the street. A black sedan sat parked across the road, engine running, headlights cutting through the rain. She stepped back from the window. Her phone buzzed again. A notification. Bank transfer. Amount. 5 million Korean wons. 5 million won. Enough to cover 3 months of rent and her smallest credit card. The message attached said only, You looked cold. Isabella's knees gave out. She sank onto her bed, Min-jae's coat still wrapped around her shoulders, and stared at her phone screen until the numbers blurred. Outside, the black sedan's engine hummed like a promise. Or a threat. She couldn't tell which. Isabella's phone glowed in the darkness. She'd been staring at the ceiling for hours. Min-jae's coat folded on the chair across the room like a silent accusation. The 5 million won sat in her account, burning a hole through her conscience. She grabbed her phone and opened the banking app. Her fingers hovered over the screen, then moved quickly. Transfer. Return to sender. Confirm. The money disappeared. She set the phone down and finally closed her eyes. Sleep came in fragments. By the time her alarm rang at 6, she'd managed 2 hours. Her body ached as she dressed for her morning shift, pulling on her cafe uniform that still smelled faintly of rain and coffee grounds. Her phone rang as she brushed her teeth. Unknown number. She let it ring out. It rang again immediately. She answered, toothbrush still in her mouth. Hello, Ms. Isabella. A woman's voice, crisp and cold. This is Park Ji-won, Mr. Kang's executive assistant. The 5 million won you returned this morning has been noted. Isabella spat into the sink. Good. Tell Mr. Kang I don't need his money. Mr. Kang doesn't accept refusals. The woman spoke like she was reading a weather report. A car will collect you after your shift today. 6 p.m. You'll have dinner with Mr. Kang to discuss this matter. I'm not. The car will be waiting. The line went dead. Isabella stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a practical bun. She looked tired. She looked trapped. She went to work anyway. The morning rush was chaos. Orders shouted across the counter. The espresso machine hissing like something alive. Customers impatient and rude. Isabella moved through it mechanically, filling cups, forcing smiles, pretending yesterday hadn't happened. At noon the cafe door chimed. Min-jae walked in. Conversations didn't stop, but they quieted. Heads turned. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, and he moved through the space like he owned it. He sat in the same corner booth. Isabella's manager gripped her elbow. Go take his order. Send someone else. Now, Isabella. She grabbed her notepad and walked over. Min-jae was looking at his phone, but she knew he'd tracked her movement across the room. What can I get you? Her voice came out flat. He set his phone down. Nothing. Then why are you here? To see you. Heat climbed her neck. 3 tables over, 2 college students were openly staring. You can't just show up at my job. Why not? Because it's weird. Because you're making people uncomfortable. Am I making you uncomfortable? You need to order something or leave. Min-jae leaned back in the booth, studying her. His eyes moved over her face like he was memorizing details. Americano. Black. She wrote it down and walked away, feeling his gaze follow her like gravity. He stayed for 2 hours. He didn't drink the coffee. Didn't look at his phone again. Just sat there watching her work. Customers whispered. Her manager kept glancing nervously at the corner booth. The pressure built until Isabella could barely breathe. At 2 p.m. he stood, left cash on the table, and walked out without a word. The cafe exhaled collectively. Isabella's hands shook as she cleared his table. The coffee sat untouched, cold. Under the cup was a folded note. Asterisk don't run. I'll only follow. Asterisk. She crumpled it and shoved it in her apron pocket. When her shift ended at 6, a black sedan waited outside. The same driver from last night stood by the passenger door. Isabella walked past him. Ms. Isabella. His voice was polite but firm. Mr. Kang is waiting. Tell Mr. Kang I'm not interested. She made it 10 steps before her phone rang. She didn't need to check the caller ID. Get in the car, Isabella. Min-jae's voice was calm. Come. Or I'll come get you myself. This is harassment. This is dinner. I didn't agree to dinner. You will. The certainty in his voice made her stomach drop. She looked back at the car. The driver waited, patient as stone. Isabella closed her eyes, took a breath, got in the car. The restaurant was in Gangnam, tucked behind a traditional gate that opened only after the driver spoke into an intercom. They drove through a private courtyard where water trickled over black stones. Inside the space was empty. No other diners. No staff visible. Just low tables, soft lighting, and Min-jae sitting alone in the center of the room. He stood when she entered. Thank you for coming. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. He gestured to the cushion across from him. Sit, please. Isabella remained standing. What do you want from me? To talk. We're talking now. Over dinner. He sat back down and somehow the movement felt like a command. Sit, Isabella. She sat. Not because he told her to. Because her legs were tired and her head hurt and she needed to end this. Food appeared without her noticing anyone bring it. Expensive cuts of meat, vegetables arranged like art, soup that smelled like her grandmother's kitchen back in Lagos. Min-jae poured her water. You returned the money. I don't want your money. Everyone wants money. Not from you. Something flickered across his face. Surprise maybe. Or respect. Why not? Because money isn't free. There's always a price. Smart. He picked up his chopsticks. But wrong. I don't want anything from you. Then why pay my debts? Because you looked cold. The simplicity of the answer unsettled her more than any complicated explanation would have. She watched him eat, his movements precise and controlled, and wondered what it would take to shake that composure. I paid all of them, Min-jae said quietly. Student loans, credit cards, back rent. You're clear. Isabella's chest tightened. You had no right. I had every right. The debts were mine to buy. Buy. I purchased them from your creditors this morning. Legally you owe me now. Not them. The room tilted. You can't do that. I just did. He set down his chopsticks and looked at her directly. But I'm not collecting. Consider it a gift. Why? Because I want to. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Isabella pushed back from the table. I need to leave. Your building was sold this morning. She froze halfway to standing. Min-jae's expression didn't change. The owner accepted my offer at 9 a.m. All tenants keep their leases. No rent increases. You're safe. You bought my building. Yes. To keep me close. Yes. The honesty was worse than any lie. Isabella sank back down, hands trembling. You're insane. Probably. He poured himself water. But you're still here. Because you forced me. Because you're curious. He wasn't wrong. She hated that he wasn't wrong. I want you to stop, Isabella said. Stop following me. Stop buying things. Stop whatever this is. I can't. Why not? Min-jae was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and walked to the window overlooking the courtyard. Rain had started again, soft against the glass. 5 years ago I lost someone, he said. Her name was Yuna. She worked for me. Brilliant analyst. One night, she stayed late finishing a report I needed. I was in Tokyo for meetings. She drove home in a storm. He paused. Her car went off a bridge. They said she died instantly. Isabella's anger dimmed. I'm sorry. Don't be. It wasn't your fault. He turned to face her. But it was mine. I pushed her too hard. Demanded too much. She died because I couldn't let her rest. That's not. After that I stopped feeling things. Work became everything. Money, power, control. It filled the space where people used to be. His eyes found hers across the room. Then you steadied me in the rain. You laughed. You didn't know who I was. Didn't want anything from me. You just helped because it was kind. Isabella's throat tightened. I haven't felt anything in 5 years, Min-jae said quietly. Until you. The confession hung between them like smoke. That doesn't give you the right to control my life, Isabella managed. No. It doesn't. He walked back to the table. But I'm asking for permission. Permission for what? To take care of you. Let me help. Let me be near you. No strings. No expectations. Just let me try to be human again. Sounded reasonable. Sounded dangerous. And if I say no? Min-jae smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then I'll try harder to convince you. Isabella stood. I need to go home. The car will take you. She walked to the door then stopped. The debts. I'll pay you back. Every one. If it makes you feel better. It does. Then I'll wait. She left without looking back. The driver took her home in silence. When they arrived, her building looked the same as always. Cracked paint. Flickering hallway lights. But now it belonged to him. Isabella climbed the stairs slowly. On the third floor, she passed Mrs. Kim from 3B. Did you hear? The older woman grabbed her arm. Building got sold. New owner paid for repairs too. Fixed my leaking ceiling this afternoon. That's good, Isabella said weakly. Very good. Rich people usually make things worse. This one seems kind. Kind. The word tasted wrong in Isabella's mouth. She unlocked her door and stepped inside. Her apartment looked different. Cleaner. Had someone been here? On her small dining table sat a stack of packages. Isabella approached them like they might explode. The first box contained a winter coat, black cashmere, softer than anything she'd ever touched. The second held clothes in her exact size. Dresses, slacks, sweaters. All simple, elegant, expensive. The third box was smaller. Jewelry case. She opened it. Diamond earrings caught the light. Delicate and devastating. Engraved on the inside of the case. KMJ. His initials. Like a signature. Like ownership. Isabella's hands shook as she closed the box. Her phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Asterisk, I noticed you didn't have a proper coat. Winter in Seoul is harsh. Asterisk. She typed back. Stop sending me things. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. Asterisk, I will. After I'm sure you're warm. Asterisk. Isabella threw her phone on the bed. It bounced and landed face up, screen glowing. Another text. Check your door. She walked over and opened it. A new phone sat on her welcome mat, still in its box. Top of the line. Expensive. A note attached. Asterisk, yours is cracked. This one is better. Asterisk. She picked it up and went back inside, closing the door harder than necessary. Sleep wouldn't come that night either. At 3 a.m., she gave up and made instant coffee. She sat at her table surrounded by boxes she didn't ask for, wearing a coat she didn't want, holding a phone that felt like a leash. When dawn broke, she made a decision. She dressed in her own clothes, left the gifts untouched, and took the subway to Gangnam. The address for Kang Enterprises was easy to find. The building was glass and steel, reaching toward the sky like an accusation. Isabella walked through the lobby. Security stopped her immediately. I need to see Kang Min-jae. Do you have an appointment? No, but. Then I can't help you. Tell him Isabella is here. The guard looked skeptical but picked up his phone. He spoke quietly, listened, then hung up looking surprised. Miss Park will escort you. 2 minutes later, a woman appeared. Tall, severe, with hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Ms. Isabella. Follow me. They rode an elevator to the 40th floor in silence. The doors opened to a reception area that screamed money. Marble floors. Abstract art. Floor-to-ceiling windows showing Seoul spread below like a toy city. Ms. Park led her down a hallway and opened a door. Mr. Kang is expecting you. Isabella stepped inside. The office was huge. Windows on 2 walls. Minimalist furniture. And Min-jae standing behind his desk, hands in his pockets, watching her like he'd known she'd come. Isabella. He didn't sound surprised. What can I do for you? She walked to his desk and slammed her hands on it. Stop. Stop what? This. All of it. The gifts. The building. The debts. Stop controlling my life. I'm not controlling anything. I'm helping. I didn't ask for help. You needed it anyway. That's not your decision to make. Min-jae moved around the desk, closing the distance between them. Why did you steady me that night? When I slipped on the sidewalk? The question threw her. What? Before I came into the cafe. I stumbled on wet pavement. You caught my arm. You laughed and said the rain made everyone clumsy. His voice softened. Why did you do that? Isabella remembered. She'd been taking out the trash, saw him slip, reacted without thinking. Because you were falling. You didn't know who I was. Does that matter? It matters to me. He was close now, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. No one touches me unless they want something. Money, connections, favors. But you just helped. You smiled. You were kind for no reason. That's called being a decent person. Not in my world. The sadness in his voice made her chest ache. She stepped back, needing distance. That still doesn't give you the right to take over my life. I know. Min-jae returned to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a document. He slid it across to her. Then let me do it legally. Isabella picked up the papers. Her eyes scanned the first page. Employment contract. Position. Cultural consultant, Nigerian market expansion. Salary. 200 million Korean wons annually. 200 million won. More money than she'd see in 5 years of working at the cafe. You're joking. I never joke about business. Min-jae leaned against his desk. My company is expanding into West African markets. Lagos specifically. I need someone who understands the culture, the language, the business landscape. You're Nigerian. You're smart. You're qualified. I'm a barista. You have a degree in international business from Yonsei University. Dean's List. You speak 4 languages. You're overqualified to be a barista. How did he know that? You investigated me. I research all potential employees. I'm not your employee. Not yet. He crossed his arms. You have 2 days to decide. If you accept, you work for me legitimately. No gifts, no favors. Just a job. If you refuse, I'll respect your decision. Will you? I'll try. The honesty was almost worse than a lie. Isabella set the contract down. I need to think. That's why I'm giving you 2 days. She walked to the door, then stopped. The girl who died. Yuna. You said you pushed her too hard. I did. Are you going to do the same to me? Min-jae was quiet for a long moment. I'm going to try not to. It wasn't reassuring, but it was something. Isabella left his office, rode the elevator down, and walked out into Seoul's cold morning air. Her phone buzzed as she reached the subway station. She pulled it out, expecting Min-jae. Instead, the screen showed an unknown number. A text message. Asterisk Ms. Isabella. This is Ace Debt Recovery. We need to discuss your brother's gambling debts in Lagos. He listed you as guarantor. Amount owed. 50 million Korean wons. Payment required immediately. Asterisk. Isabella's vision blurred. Her brother. Chidi. She hadn't spoken to him in 6 months. Not since he'd promised to stop gambling. Not since she'd stupidly signed papers she didn't fully understand because he was family and she'd wanted to help. 50 million won. She didn't have 50,000 won. Her phone rang. Different number. She answered without thinking. Isabella. Min-jae's voice. Knowing. How did you? The debt collectors just contacted you. Didn't they? Her knees went weak. She leaned against the subway station wall. How do you know that? Because I've been monitoring your financial situation. I saw the flag on your credit report this morning. You're watching my credit. I watch everything that concerns you. The statement should have terrified her. Instead, Isabella just felt tired. My brother's debts aren't mine. You're listed as guarantor. Legally they are. I can't pay 50 million won. I know. She closed her eyes. Don't say it. I can make this go away, Min-jae said quietly. 1 call. The debt disappears. And what do I owe you in return? Nothing. Just think about the job offer. That's not nothing. No, he agreed. It's not. Isabella opened her eyes. Across the street, a black sedan sat parked. The same driver stood beside it, waiting. Is that your car? She asked. Yes. Are you following me? Always. The answer should have made her angry. Instead, she felt something else. Something that scared her more than anger. I'll think about it, she whispered. That's all I ask. He hung up. Isabella stared at her phone. At the debt collector's message. at the impossible choice forming around her like walls. The driver opened the sedan door. She looked at him. The warm car. The easy escape. Then she turned and walked down into the subway station, into the crowd, into the cold. Behind her, the sedan's engine hummed. It followed her all the way home. If you're enjoying Isabella and Kang's story, subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Isabella woke to silence. No debt collector calls. No threatening messages. Her phone sat on the nightstand, screen dark and peaceful. She knew what that meant. Min-jae had made them disappear. A new message waited. Contract signing. 10 a.m. My office. Not a request. Summons. Isabella dressed in her own clothes. Not the expensive ones he'd sent. Small rebellion. Pointless, but it made her feel less owned. The subway ride to Gangnam felt like traveling to her own execution. Kang Enterprises gleamed in the morning sun. All glass and steel and money. Isabella rode the elevator to the 40th floor, each ascending number tightening the knot in her stomach. Ms. Park met her with a thin smile. He's waiting. Min-jae stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back. A lawyer sat at the conference table. Contracts spread open like a trap. Isabella. Min-jae turned. His suit was navy today, perfectly tailored. Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? Always. But his eyes said otherwise. Isat. The lawyer explained terms she barely heard. 2-year contract. Generous salary. Bonuses tied to project success. It all sounded reasonable. It all felt like chains. Sign here, the lawyer said, sliding the pen across. Isabella picked it up. The weight felt wrong. She looked at Min-jae. He watched her with that unreadable expression, patient as death. Resign. Something shifted in his face. Relief. Victory. She couldn't tell. Welcome to Kang Enterprises, Min-jae said softly. The lawyer left. Isabella started to follow. Your office is next door, Min-jae said. Stop. Next door. So we can work closely. He led her through a connecting door. Her new office was beautiful. Windows overlooking Seoul. Modern furniture. Everything perfect. Except the glass wall between her office and his. So you can watch me, Isabella said flatly. So we can collaborate. Min-jae smiled. Welcome to the team. The first week passed in a blur. Market research. Cultural analysis. Meetings where executives eyed her with barely concealed contempt. She was the boss's pet project and everyone knew it. Min-jae introduced her to everyone personally. His hand always on her lower back. Guiding. Possessive. On Friday, Ms. Park appeared at Isabella's desk with a garment bag. For tonight, she said. Inside was a black dress. Silk, elegant, probably worth more than her old monthly rent. The attached card read, Charity Gala. I'll pick you up at 7. Isabella wanted to refuse. But the contract sat in her drawer, signed and binding. Min-jae arrived exactly at 7. He wore a tuxedo that made him look dangerous. His eyes moved over her dress with approval that felt too intimate. Beautiful, he said. She didn't thank him. The gala was at a hotel that dripped wealth. Chandeliers, champagne, people who smiled with too many teeth. Min-jae kept her close, his hand never leaving her waist. Kang. A man approached. 50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. Interesting date. Choi Sung-ho. Min-jae's voice cooled. This is Isabella Okonkwo, my new cultural consultant. Sung-ho's smile widened. Consultant. How modern. His gaze lingered on her. Lovely to meet you. Min-jae's fingers tightened on her waist. Possessive. Warning. Excuse us, Min-jae said, steering Isabella away. They mingled. He introduced her to countless faces she'd never remember. His hand stayed on her, constant pressure, claiming her in front of everyone who mattered. When Min-jae left to speak with investors, Sung-ho appeared at her elbow. He collects pretty things, Sung-ho said quietly. Did you know that? Isabella's skin prickled. I'm not a thing. Of course not. His smile didn't reach his eyes. But ask him what happened to the last one. The analyst. Yuna. Before Isabella could respond, Min-jae returned. His expression was calm, but something cold lived behind his eyes. Ready to leave. His voice was soft. Dangerous. The car ride home was silent. Min-jae stared out the window, jaw tight. Isabella felt the anger radiating off him like heat. When they reached her building, he got out with her. You don't need to. He followed her upstairs. Into her apartment. Closed the door behind them. You smiled at him. Min-jae's voice was quiet. Controlled. You let him get close. He just talked to me. You looked interested. I was being polite. Min-jae moved forward. Isabella backed up until she hit the door. He braced his hands on either side of her head, caging her in. Don't be polite to men like him, he said. His breath was warm against her face. Don't smile. Don't engage. You're mine. I'm not. He pulled a jewelry box from his pocket. Inside, a diamond choker caught the light. Delicate. Devastating. Expensive. Turn around, Min-jae said softly. No. Please. The please broke something in her. Isabella turned. His fingers were warm against her throat as he fastened the necklace. The diamonds sat heavy on her collarbone. Beautiful prison. Perfect, he whispered against her ear. Now everyone will know. He left before she could respond. Isabella touched the choker. Her reflection in the window showed a stranger. Someone gilded and trapped. She grabbed her laptop and searched. Kang Min-jae Yuna death. Articles appeared. Business analyst. Car accident. 5 years ago. Police investigation dropped due to insufficient evidence. She dug deeper. Found a cached comment on an old forum. He killed her. Everyone knows. She was going to expose him. Isabella's hands shook. She found one more article buried deep. Yuna had been investigating data trading irregularities. Had threatened to go public. The night she died, she'd been driving away from the office. Midnight. In a storm. Running from something. Or someone. Isabella checked the time. 11:47 p.m. She grabbed her coat and left. Min-jae's penthouse was in Gangnam, top floor of a building that touched the clouds. The doorman recognized her from the gala. Let her up without question. She knocked. No answer. Tried the handle. Unlocked. Inside, the apartment was dark except for city lights through floor-to-ceiling windows. Min-jae sat on the couch, glass of whiskey in hand, still wearing his tuxedo shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He looked up when she entered. No surprise. Like he'd been waiting. Tell me about Yuna, Isabella said. Min-jae took a slow drink. What did Sung-ho tell you? That you collect things. That you killed her. And you believe him. I don't know what to believe. Min-jae set down his glass. Walked to the window. Yuna found something, he said quietly. Data trading. Illegal. She came to me first. Said she'd go public if I didn't fix it. He paused. I was trying to. Gathering evidence. Building a case. But someone found out. Who? My competitors. Sung-ho maybe. Others. His reflection was ghost-like in the glass. She died before I could protect her. They made it look like an accident. Made sure the investigation pointed at me. Did you kill her? No. He turned. His eyes were raw. Honest. But I might as well have. I put her in danger. I wasn't fast enough. She died afraid and alone because of me. Isabella's throat tightened. Why tell me this? Because you asked. Because I can't lose someone else. He moved closer. Because you make me feel human again, and it terrifies me. The confession hung between them. Isabella stepped forward. His eyes widened slightly. She reached up and touched his face. His jaw was rough with stubble. His skin was warm. You're not safe, Min-jae whispered. I know. You should leave. I know. She kissed him. His control shattered. He pulled her against him, kissing her back with desperate hunger. His hands tangled in her hair. She gripped his shirt. The world narrowed to heat and need and danger. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-jae rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he whispered. Isabella closed her eyes. Okay. They moved to the couch. She curled against him. His arms wrapped around her, protective and possessive. She fell asleep listening to his heartbeat. Her phone woke her at 3 a.m. Unknown number. She answered groggily. Hello. Ms. Isabella. Kyungho's voice. Smooth. Dangerous. I have evidence that Yuna's death wasn't an accident. But it wasn't Min-jae's enemies who killed her. It was Min-jae himself. Meet me tomorrow at noon, Cafe Bora in Itaewon. Come alone. Or I go to the press with everything. The line went dead. Isabella sat up. Min-jae was still asleep, face peaceful in the darkness. She looked at the phone. Him. At the choice forming like ice around her heart. Side soul glittered. Beautiful. Merciless. Waiting. Isabella left before dawn. Min-jae's penthouse was silent except for his breathing. She dressed in the dark, fingers fumbling with her shoes, and slipped out like a thief. The choker was still around her neck. She tried to remove it, but the clasp was intricate, designed to need 2 hands and a mirror, or someone else's help. She touched the diamonds as the elevator descended. Beautiful cage. Her phone rang before she reached the lobby. Min-jae's name on the screen. She answered. Hello. You left. His voice was quiet. Hurt, not angry. I needed to think. About what Sung-ho said. Yes. Silence stretched between them. When you're ready to trust me, Min-jae said softly. I'll be waiting. He hung up. Isabella stepped into Seoul's gray morning and felt like she was drowning. Home she paced. The meeting was at noon. 5 hours to decide if the man she'd kissed last night was a victim or a murderer. She looked at her reflection. The choker glinted. His gifts surrounded her. Clothes, phone, jewelry. Evidence of care or control. At 11:45 she left for Itaewon. Cafe Bora was small, tucked between a bookstore and a vintage shop. Sung-ho sat in the back corner, tablet on the table, coffee untouched. Ms. Isabella. He gestured to the empty chair. Thank you for coming. She sat without speaking. Sung-ho turned the tablet toward her. Security footage. The night Yuna died. The video showed a parking garage. Timestamp. 11:47 p.m. Min-jae's black sedan pulling out, driving toward the exit. He left 30 minutes before her accident, Sung-ho said. Same route she would have taken. Next he showed her bank records. Transfers from Min-jae's accounts to 3 police officers. He paid them to close the investigation. Then text messages. Min-jae and Yuna arguing. You need to stay quiet. This will destroy everything. Yuna's response. I won't be part of this anymore. Isabella's stomach turned. He's obsessive, Sung-ho said quietly. Controlling. He did the same to Yuna before you. When she tried to leave, he killed her. He slid a burner phone across the table. Help me stop him. Testify about his control over you. Or become his next victim. Isabella stared at the phone. I need time. 48 hours. Then I go public with everything. She left without taking the phone. The subway ride home was a blur. Every gift Min-jae gave her felt sinister now. Every touch, every promise. Had she been falling for a killer? She went to his office that afternoon, questions burning in her throat. Through the glass wall she saw him meeting with someone. Middle-aged man, weathered face, taking notes. Isabella moved closer to the connecting door. Heard fragments. Sung-ho's movements tracked. Yes, sir. He's been in contact with several offshore accounts. The Lagos connection. Confirmed. His company, Ace Debt Recovery, specializes in manufacturing debt crises for leverage. Isabella's blood went cold. Her brother's debts. The collectors who'd appeared right after she met Min-jae. Find everything, Min-jae said. I need proof he's been targeting her. The investigator left through the main door. Min-jae stayed at his desk, head in his hands, looking exhausted. Isabella's mind raced. Sung-ho's company had contacted her about Chitty's debts. Debts that appeared exactly when Min-jae entered her life. Too convenient. She pulled out her phone and called the number from Sung-ho's business card. Ace Debt Recovery. This is Isabella Okonkwo. You contacted me about my brother's debts. Yes, Ms. Okonkwo. 50 million won. Still outstanding. When did my brother incur these debts? Papers shuffling. November 15th. 3 days after she met Min-jae. Isabella hung up. She'd been played. The next morning, she returned to Café Bora. Sung-ho was waiting, smiling like he'd already won. Have you decided? I want to hear it from you, Isabella said. The truth. All of it. Sung-ho's smile widened. Smart girl. You figured it out. The debts. You created them. Not just the debts. I've been watching Kang for years, waiting for a weakness. He leaned forward. Then you appeared. He became obsessed. Floppy. I knew if I could turn you against him, I could destroy everything. Why? Because Yuna found out about my data trading operation. She threatened to expose me. I couldn't let that happen. So you killed her. Accidents happen. He shrugged. I made sure the evidence pointed to Kang. His obsessive reputation did the rest. Isabella's hand trembled under the table, touching the small recording device she'd borrowed from Min-jae's investigator that morning. She'd broken into his office before dawn, knowing he tracked everything. And me, she asked. What was I? The perfect weapon. Beautiful, desperate, and he's obsessed with you. I manufactured your crisis, knowing he'd swoop in to save you. Knowing you'd eventually doubt him. Knowing I could use you to finally bury him. You're confessing. Who are you going to tell? Sung-ho reached across the table. You're in too deep. One word from me. And everyone knows you've been sleeping with a suspected murderer. Your credibility is gone. His hand closed on her wrist. Isabella smiled. You should check under the table. Sung-ho's face changed. He found the recorder taped beneath. You! His men appeared from the kitchen. 2 of them large and efficient. Cute trick, Sung-ho said. But recordings can disappear. So can you. They grabbed her arms. Everything happened fast. Black van. Zip ties around her wrists. Warehouse on Seoul's outskirts, rust and shadows. Sung-ho made the call on speaker. Kang. I have something that belongs to you. If you hurt her. Min-jae's voice was ice. Bring the evidence you've gathered on me. USB drive. Come alone. You have 1 hour. Isabella worked the zip ties against the choker's clasp while Sung-ho paced. The diamonds were sharp where they met the setting. She'd noticed that the first time Min-jae fastened it. The plastic cut into her skin, but the ties began to fray. 50 minutes later, Min-jae walked through the warehouse door. Alone. USB drive in his hand. Let her go, he said. Evidence first. Min-jae threw the drive. It skittered across the concrete. Sung-ho picked it up, checked it, smiled. Shame you came alone. No witnesses. He didn't come alone. Isabella stood, wrists free, holding the recording device. She'd recovered it from Sung-ho's pocket when his men grabbed her. She pressed play. Sung-ho's confession echoed through the warehouse. Yuna found out about my data trading operation. She threatened to expose me. I couldn't let that happen. You're predictable, Min-jae said. Always monologuing. Police flooded through the doors. Sung-ho's men scattered. Handcuffs clicked. Sung-ho's face twisted with rage as they led him away. This isn't over. Yes, Min-jae said quietly. It is. At the police station, Isabella gave her statement. Min-jae sat beside her, silent support. When she finished, he stood to speak with his lawyer. 3 steps away he collapsed. Min-jae. Paramedics appeared. Hospital. Sterile white rooms. Doctors with grave faces. Isabella waited in the hallway, still wearing the choker, dried blood on her wrists. Through an open door, she heard Min-jae's voice. Weak but clear. Make sure everything transfers to her. The company, assets, everything. She'll need it to survive this world. Mr. Kang, you should tell her yourself. No. She'll try to stop me from protecting her. The lawyer's voice dropped. The prognosis. 6 months. Maybe less. The dilated cardiomyopathy is terminal. I've known for weeks. Isabella pressed her hand to her mouth. Ms. Okonkwo. A nurse appeared. You can see him now. She walked into the room. Min-jae lay in the hospital bed, 4 in his arm, looking smaller somehow. Mortal. His eyes found hers. Relief flooded his face. You're safe, he whispered. Isabella moved to his bedside, took his hand. I'm safe, she agreed. But he wasn't. And now she knew. The doctor didn't know Isabella had already heard. Ms. Okonkwo. He closed the hospital room door behind him. I need to explain Mr. Kang's condition. Min-jae slept in the bed between them, face peaceful, for drip steady. Dilated cardiomyopathy. His heart is failing. Without a transplant. He has 4 to 6 months. The doctor's voice was clinical. Kind but clinical. He's been symptomatic for weeks. The exhaustion, the dizziness. He should have come in sooner. Isabella's throat tightened. What are his options? Transplant list. But his blood type is rare. It could take years. Years Min-jae didn't have. The doctor left. Isabella sat in the chair beside the bed and watched Min-jae breathe. Each rise and fall of his chest felt borrowed. Temporary. His eyes opened. Found hers immediately. You heard, he said. Not a question. When were you going to tell me? I wasn't. The honesty cut deeper than any lie. Isabella pulled her hand away. You knew. When you met me, when you paid my debts, when you bought my building. You knew you were dying. Yes. So what was I? Project. Something to complete before you go. Min-jae sat up slowly, wincing. You were supposed to be safe. I was building something that would protect you after I'm gone. The job, the connections, the resources. I was teaching you to survive my world. By controlling me. By preparing you. His voice was rough. I don't have time to do this slowly, Isabella. I don't have time to court you properly, to let you choose me freely. I have months. So yes, I manipulated you. I'm sorry. Isabella stood. Sorry doesn't fix this. She left before he could respond. For 3 days she didn't answer his calls. She went to work at Kang Enterprises, sat in her glass office, and avoided looking through the wall at his empty desk. On the 4th day he came back. Isabella saw him arrive. Thinner. Moving carefully. But his eyes were sharp when they met hers through the glass. He called a board meeting. Isabella sat in the conference room surrounded by executives who still saw her as the boss's pet. Min-jae stood at the head of the table, commanding despite his weakened state. For the Nigerian expansion, he said, I'm deferring all decisions to Ms. Okonkwo. She has full authority. Silence. Then murmurs. Mr. Kang, one executive ventured. Surely you'll oversee. No. She leads. I advise if asked. Min-jae's tone left no room for argument. Any questions? No one spoke. After the meeting, Min-jae appeared at Isabella's office door. Jeju Island. Resort acquisition needs review. Come with me. I'm busy. Please. That word again. The one that broke her defenses. One day, Isabella said. That's all. They flew private. The island was beautiful. All black volcanic rock and turquoise water. The resort sat on a cliff overlooking the ocean. Min-jae showed her the property. Explained the numbers, the potential, the risks. Treated her like an equal, not a student. At dinner they sat on the terrace. Waves crashed below. The sun set in shades of gold and red. "I don't want to die," Min-jae said quietly. "But if I must, I need to know you'll survive what I've built." Isabella set down her chopsticks. "You can't control death. I can control what I leave behind. I'm not an asset to manage." "No." He looked at her. Really looked, the way he had that first night in the rain. "You're the only real thing I've had in 5 years. I fell in love with you, Isabella. Not the version I tried to create. The woman who challenges me, who sees through me, who stayed even when she should have run." The confession settled between them like something fragile. "You manipulated me," Isabella said. "I did. You tried to buy me. I did. You're still trying to control everything." "I know." Min-jae's voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I don't know how to do this any other way. I've spent 5 years building walls. You're the first person who made me want to tear them down. I just ran out of time to figure out how." Isabella felt tears on her cheeks. "I hate you for lying. I know. I hate you for making me care. I know. I hate that you're dying." Min-jae reached across the table. Took her hand. "I hate that too." That night, they didn't speak about death or empires or control. They just existed together. His hand in her hair. Her head on his chest, listening to his failing heart beat stubbornly on. When they made love it was different. Cool. Two people stealing moments from time's cruel march. Morning came too quickly. Isabella woke to find Min-jae watching her. Expression soft. "I'd give up everything for more mornings like this," he whispered. "Then let's find you more mornings." Back in Seoul, the transplant search consumed them. Coordinators. Waitlist. Dead ends. His blood type was too rare. The list too long. Isabella called everyone. Used his network, her Nigerian community in Seoul, university connections. Nothing. 2 weeks later a lawyer called. Sung-ho's lawyer. "Ms. Okonkwo, I have a proposition. Sung-ho's brother, Choi Dae-young, is a perfect match for Mr. Kang. Prison medical screening confirmed it. He'll donate on one condition." Isabella's stomach dropped. "What condition?" "Testify that your recording was falsified. That Sung-ho's confession was coerced. Get him acquitted." She hung up. Called Min-jae immediately. "No." His response was instant. "Absolutely not. He's a perfect match. I don't care. I won't let you commit perjury. I won't let that man go free because of me. Then you'll die. Better that than living knowing Sung-ho walks free. Better that than you destroying yourself to save me." They fought. Words sharp as knives. He refused to bend. She refused to accept. "If you die when I could have saved you," Isabella said, voice breaking, "every day after is empty." Min-jae pulled her close. "And if I live because you freed a murderer, every day after is poisoned. I won't do that to you. To us." Isabella cried against his chest. His failing heart beat against her ear. That night, her mother called from Lagos. Routine check-in. Isabella mentioned the search, the difficulty finding donors. "Have you tried international exchanges?" her mother asked. "Your cousin Emika's husband is a transplant surgeon. He might know programs." Hope sparked. Isabella spent the next 48 hours on phones and computers. Min-jae's international medical connections plus her Nigerian network. A transplant surgeon in Lagos knew a coordinator in Berlin who knew of a donor. Accident victim. Rare blood type. Family agreed to donation. The surgery was scheduled. The night before, they stayed in Min-jae's penthouse. Too nervous to sleep. He held her on the couch, city lights painting them in silver. "Whatever happens tomorrow," he whispered, "thank you. For staying. For fighting. For loving me despite everything. You're going to be fine. I know. Because you decided I would be." At 2 a.m. Min-jae gasped. Clutched his chest. "Min-jae." He couldn't speak. Lips turning blue. Eyes wide with fear. Isabella grabbed her phone, called emergency services, started CPR the way she'd learned in university, counting compressions, breathing into his mouth. "Stay with me," she begged between breaths. "Stay with me." Paramedics arrived, rushed him to the hospital. Emergency surgery. The donor heart was already in Seoul, waiting. 8 hours passed. Isabella sat in the waiting room, still wearing yesterday's clothes, Min-jae's blood on her hands. The doctor emerged, face unreadable, exhausted. "Ms. Okonkwo." He approached slowly. "About Mr. Kang." Isabella stood. The world held its breath. The doctor's face was grave. Isabella's world stopped. Her knees weakened. This was it. The moment she'd been dreading. Mr. Kang's heart stopped twice during surgery. The doctor's voice seemed to come from far away. "We nearly lost him." Isabella couldn't breathe. The hospital hallway tilted. But the transplant took. The doctor's expression softened. "He's alive. Critical but stable. The next 72 hours will determine everything." Isabella's legs gave out. She sank into a chair, hands covering her face, and sobbed. Relief and terror mixed until she couldn't tell them apart. "Can I see him?" "Soon. He's in recovery." 2 hours later they let her in. Min-jae lay surrounded by machines. Monitors. His face was pale, lips colorless. But his chest rose and fell steadily. Isabella took his hand. It was warm. "You don't get to leave me," she whispered. "Not after making me love you." His fingers twitched against hers. The smallest movement. But it was everything. 3 days passed like years. Isabella lived in that hospital room. Slept in the chair beside his bed. Watched monitors count his heartbeats like precious coins. On the 4th morning, Min-jae's eyes opened. "Isabella." His voice was barely audible. She was on her feet instantly. "I'm here. You stayed. Where else would I be?" He tried to smile. Failed. Tears slid down his temples instead. "I heard you. In the ambulance. You told me to stay." Isabella pressed his hand to her cheek. "I meant it. I'm sorry," he whispered. "For everything. Don't. Just rest. We'll talk when you're stronger." But his eyes were already closing again. Exhaustion pulling him under. Recovery was slow. Painful. Min-jae spent 2 weeks in the hospital, then moved to his penthouse with round-the-clock nurses. He could barely walk to the bathroom without assistance. Isabella divided her time between his bedside and Kang Enterprises. The board had questions. Concerns. The CEO was incapacitated. What now? Isabella stepped into the gap. She led meetings Min-jae couldn't attend. Made decisions he couldn't make. Negotiated deals, managed crises. Proved she'd learned everything he taught her. And more. She implemented changes he'd been too entrenched to see. Ethical data practices. Partnerships with African tech hubs in Lagos and Nairobi. Transparency initiatives. Profits increased. So did employee satisfaction. The executives who dismissed her as the boss's pet started listening when she spoke. Every evening, she went to Min-jae's penthouse with updates. He'd be on the couch, still weak but improving. She'd sit beside him and walk through her day. He'd offer advice, but mostly he just listened. "You don't need me anymore," he said one night. Isabella looked at him. Really looked. He was thinner, but color had returned to his face. The sharp edges of control had softened into something gentler. "I never needed you," she said. "I chose you. There's a difference." Min-jae's smile was real this time. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher. Even if his methods were questionable." 3 months after surgery, Min-jae returned to the office. He lasted 4 hours before exhaustion sent him home. That night he called an emergency board meeting. Isabella sat in her usual seat, expecting another project review. Instead, Min-jae stood at the head of the table and announced his resignation as CEO. The room erupted. "I'm nominating Isabella Okonkwo as my replacement," Min-jae continued calmly. She's proven her capability. The company has thrived under her leadership. She's earned this position. Silence fell. Executives exchanged glances. A Nigerian woman, in her 20s, CEO of a major Korean tech company. We'll vote, the board chairman said. It wasn't unanimous. 3 executives voted against her, but 12 voted yes. Isabella became CEO. Headlines exploded. Social media buzzed. Critics questioned. Supporters celebrated. Isabella ignored all of it and got to work. 6 months later, Kang Enterprises looked different. Felt different. The cutthroat culture had shifted toward collaboration. International partnerships flourished. The company was growing in ways Min-jae's iron control never allowed. And Min-jae, he attended meetings, offered wisdom, then went home at 5 o'clock to rest, doctor's orders. He was learning to live instead of just work. One evening, Isabella stayed late in her office. The CEO office. Floor-to-ceiling windows showing Seoul's glittering expanse. The door opened. Min-jae entered carrying takeout containers. You missed dinner again, he said. I had reports to review. The reports will be there tomorrow. He set the food on her desk. Eat. They ate together in comfortable silence. The power dynamic had completely inverted. She gave orders now. He followed them. And somehow it worked. Min-jae set down his chopsticks. Walked around the desk. Isabella looked up, confused. He got down on one knee. Her breath caught. I bought you once, Min-jae said quietly. With money and control and manipulation. I'm asking now with nothing but love. Will you marry me, Isabella? The diamond ring in his hand caught the light. Simple. Elegant. Nothing like the choker he'd given her that first week. Isabella made him wait. Let the moment stretch. I'll think about it, she said. His expression fell. Then he saw her smile. You're cruel, he said. I learned from the best. Is that a yes? Come to the board meeting tomorrow. You'll find out. The next morning, Isabella arrived early. Min-jae sat in his usual seat, now labeled VP of African Expansion. He reported to her now. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Before the meeting started, Isabella stood. I have an announcement. Min-jae asked me to marry him. Executives froze. This wasn't typical board meeting content. I said yes, Isabella continued. On one condition. He works as my subordinate for 1 year. I need to make sure he can handle taking orders. Min-jae's smile was proud. Amused. Free. Deal, he said. The wedding was small. A rooftop venue overlooking Seoul. Korean traditions mixed with Nigerian ones. Isabella wore white with Ankara accents. Min-jae wore traditional hanbok. Her family flew in from Lagos. Her mother cried through the entire ceremony. Her brother Chidi apologized for the gambling debts that had started everything. Isabella forgave him. During the vows, Isabella added her own words. You tried to trap me. Instead we trapped each other. But this time it's a cage we built together. And the door is always open. Min-jae's voice was steady when he responded. I choose to stay. Every day. Forever. They kissed as the sun set over Seoul, painting everything gold. 1 year later, Isabella sat in the CEO chair reviewing quarterly reports. Profits up 18%. Employee retention at an all-time high. The African expansion exceeding projections. A knock at the door. Come in. Min-jae entered with coffee. Your 3 o'clock is here. Thank you, Mr. Kang. He set the cup on her desk. You're enjoying this too much. Absolutely. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. His hand rested briefly on her stomach, where a small bump was just beginning to show. Isabella covered his hand with hers. For months along. They'd announced it last week. Another headline. Another surprise. The world was still adjusting to Isabella Okonkwo Kang, CEO. Now she'd be a mother too. Tired? Min-jae asked softly. Always. Want me to cancel your afternoon? No. I can handle it. I know you can. Pride filled his voice. But you don't have to handle everything alone anymore. Isabella looked up at him. The man who'd tried to control her life now spent his days supporting her dreams. The obsessive billionaire had become a partner. An equal. Go home, she said gently. Rest. I'll be done by 6. Promise. Promise. He kissed her once more and left. Isabella turned back to her window. Seoul spread below like a kingdom. Her kingdom now. Built not through manipulation or control, but through competence and vision and the courage to transform something broken into something beautiful. At home that evening, she passed the display case in their living room. The diamond choker sat inside, preserved under glass. Not worn. Not hidden. Just remembered. A reminder of where they'd started. Min-jae appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. His chin rested on her shoulder. Regrets? He asked. Isabella leaned back against him. Felt his heartbeat, strong, steady, alive. Not one. They stood there together as the city lights flickered on. Two people who'd found each other in the rain. Who'd built cages and broken them. Who'd learned that love without freedom was possession, and freedom without love was loneliness. They had both now. And it was enough. It was everything.